it's really a privilege this evening to share the stage with such distinguished panelists.
Absolutely. Lovely, lovely.
Really, really a great evening. And if you hear all these sirens in the background and so on, you know,
Yes.
I'm very close to the action this evening.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to start with probably a quote. And that quote goes something like this: that transparency as a high quality public procurement principle can improve competition, increase efficiency, and reduce the threat of unfairness or corruption. Moreover, a robust and transparent public procurement regime enables people to hold public bodies and politicians accountable, thereby instilling trust in a nation's institutions. And this was said by Ban Ki-moon in 2012, and we all know Ban Ki-moon was the former Secretary General of the United Nations.
Sure.
Another thing, without a transparent procurement system, opportunity makes a thief. And that's something I want to make sure that we understand. The opportunities without public procurement act and the regulations, handbooks and guidelines, you will continue to see what we have been seeing for over 50 years in Trinidad and Tobago. So we do have the Public Procurement Act, and the Public Procurement Act really covers a multitude of institutions. And I'm going to mention some of them because it's important to tell you how it is affecting different institutions. So we have the Office of the President, the Parliament, and the Judiciary as three very important stakeholders. We have already, and we can say that we probably have not had this act fully proclaimed. The regulations haven't been passed, nor the handbooks and guidelines approved. Yesterday, we got the president of the country has sent in their procurement plan for this coming year. And that tells you something, that at the head of the nation, they are taking this seriously. So far, we have met with over 188 public bodies out of the 245. Recently, we got from the Attorney General's office their procurement plan. And last week, we met with the Office of the Prime Minister, Tobago Affairs. So a number of organizations, and I mentioned that particularly because we get hung up that the act is not fully proclaimed. And yes, we need it, Afra, absolutely we need it, and we need it yesterday. But notwithstanding that, there are persons in this country that has already started to step up to the plate and make sure that certain things are being done. One good example is the Heritage Petroleum Company, and they have adopted the act fully. And I can tell you they are operating very well with the new act. So that said, I want to cover a couple areas where I believe the act is going to lead to more transparency. And the first thing is the bodies that fall under the act, straight down to the NGOs that receive public monies. And then each time we looked at these public bodies, previously you didn't have a clue as to what their procurement activities will be for the ensuing year. So one of the things that they are now mandated by law to do within 6 weeks of the approval of the budget is to present their annual procurement plan to the national community. So every public body, all 245 of them, together with the ones that spend public money, have now, under the law, to produce an annual procurement plan. That in itself will lead to some transparency, because at the end of the year, they now have to report against what they would have put out to the public. So that's the first point I want to make. One, the annual procurement plan that will lead to transparency. You will have to tell the national population what you are about to procure. The second thing is the annual performance review that takes into consideration the procurement plan, and you also have to now do your annual procurement review. The third thing I want to mention is in respect of the standstill period. Now, the standstill period has been introduced in the Act to allow contractors and suppliers to question and ask for a review of why they weren't successful in a particular contract. The fourth thing I would want to mention is in respect of the challenge proceedings under Section 49, which gives the opportunity to suppliers and contractors to challenge the procurement proceedings if they believe that they have been hard done. And that in itself is going to lead to, and those challenge proceedings will be aired in public. So the members of the public will be participating and be part of those proceedings. The other area is in terms of the reporting of contracts and awarded tenders. So information on contracts awarded. The procuring entity now on a regular basis has to publish the contracts that would have been awarded, to whom it was awarded, the cost or the cost associated with those awards, the payments to date, outstanding payments, and any variation orders. So no longer now there is a black hole in terms of where contracts would have been awarded, by which public bodies, and to whom. And you know, we always hear about all these, the lawyers receiving all these big briefs and so on. That's public money. That has to be reported, and that has to be reported to the public. And we have already met with the Law Association to discuss how this will work. So that's another big area. And then we have the procurement depository. You know, we always hear these horror stories that to get pre-qualified with a public body, you always have to know somebody or friendly with somebody or pass something underneath the table. Now there will be one public procurement depository and pre-qualified listing that public bodies have to select their contractors from. And that in itself will lead to a certain level playing field for suppliers and contractors to participate in public spending. And there are very rigorous, registration requirements. For example, you must have fulfilled all your obligation to pay taxes and so on in the country. And that in itself will lead to making sure that if you are, on the one hand, you say that be published and say that you have received $20 million in contract, one would imagine that now the Board of Inland Revenue will see that in the public domain and question whether or not those revenues have been properly declared in terms of tax returns and so on. So that's another area that we're looking forward to in terms of the depository. And then if you misbehave, and you didn't perform in accordance with your obligation, you can be placed on an ineligibility listing. And that ineligibility listing will be published to the wider public so that everybody knows who should not be participating in state contracts. And you can be made ineligible for up to a period of 10 years. So that if you, in breach of the act, you commit any offenses and so on, you can be debarred from doing business for 10 years. Not only the company, but the directors who have been named with that company upon registration. And then the whole issue of the board's involvement in procurement activities. And if Andrei is on the call, I would like him to probably discuss to some extent what would have happened in 2017 in Jamaica, where Everton McFarlane, Financial Secretary to the government of Jamaica, would have issued a mandate to all public bodies that boards should not get involved in evaluation of any contracts associated with the public domain. So, and then finally, I know my 10 minutes is up. So finally, I would like to touch on this whole issue of government-to-government relationships and contracts. So there has been a lot of discussion in terms of amending that section under 7.2 of the Act to take away the requirements in terms of government-to-government, international lending agencies, and public-private partnership arrangement, to remove that part from the Act so that they don't follow the Act. But the Act as it stands says that once you enter into these agreements, you must follow the Act in terms of the requirements for the procurement of goods, works, and services. And that in itself, whereas before there was a lot of secrecy in terms of these types of arrangement, that is now open. And once that you enter into these agreements, you have to send a report to the Office of Procurement Regulation, and that report goes to the Speaker of the House, and it must be in conformance with Section 29 of the Act, and the Speaker of the House now is obligated. We have to send that report within 21 days, and the Speaker now will lay that in Parliament at the earliest opportunity after the report has been received from the procurement regulator. So I'll stop there, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions coming around those particular area and any other area that may be of concern to the audience. Thank you very much.